Nobody would ever play as many games for
Right.
this organization that I did. It's something that, man, you know me, I'm not ever going, hey, yeah, that's me. I'm that guy, right?
Remember when I did
But
that? Yeah.
it's it shows how dedicated and hardworking, how much hard work I put into
Yeah.
being on the field. I went 15 years and I missed one game, and I could have played that game, but they wouldn't let me play. But
Wow.
you know, look, I played a game, scored a 65-yard touchdown with a bicycle inner tube taped to my butt.
What are you grateful for? And I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to wear that silver and black.
Say it one more time for the people in the back.
You'll just see the unity, the passion, the family, everything that the Black Hole stands for.
Raider Nation, what's going on? It's time for an all-new episode of Raiders Talk of the Nation. I am Sibley Scoles, joined by our guest. It is an honor to sit next to, on my right, Tim Brown. How you feeling?
I'm good, Sid.
You're good?
It's an honor, really?
Yeah, it's an honor. I mean, this is not our
appreciate that.
first time sitting
No
down.
doubt, no
Now,
doubt
let me
about it.
make you blush like I do
Oh, God.
when I bring the legends on the show. Hall of Famer 2015, that's when it went down for you. 9-time Pro Bowler. 1987 Heisman Trophy winner. NFL 1990s All-Decade Team. Sporting that silver and black.
I love when I hear those things now,
It's
The,
cool,
the
right?
older I get, it's like, more,
Yes,
please,
more. Give me some other accolades. I can put those out.
College Football Hall of Famer, you know what I mean? Walter Camp Player of the Year, API Player of the Year. I mean, we can go on
We
and
could go
on.
on and on. We don't have that kind of time today.
That's all good.
But
all
no,
good.
if anyone knows your career and watched you from the
Mhm.
beginning, I've never spoke to you about your upbringing, where you came from,
Mhm.
Dallas.
Mm.
Get us into the Dallas
Big D.
moments. Yeah, everything's bigger out there, right? Is that
Bigger
what they
and
say?
better in Dallas, what they tell me.
Take me through your roots, your upbringing, what it was like when you fell in love with the game, and how you got to your
Yeah, well, I was the youngest of 5 kids. I was a baby, and at 17, my parents decided to have another kid. So I didn't like that too much, but she's a good little sister.
throw that in there.
Right. I have to throw that part in there. For me, sports was something I did to be with my friends. Never took it to the point where I thought, I'm gonna go to college to play football. Definitely not the NFL.
Right.
But play football, basketball, and track. Those were the sports, and you did those things to be with your boys. Did summer track, you did all that. There was never really any let's do extra. My dad was not. He loved sports, but he wasn't like, hey, you need to go to this football camp, or you need to do. He wasn't that type of fanatic about sports. My mom is a missionary in the church, so the sports was the devil's workshop.
Right, there was
You know what I mean?
no
So it was
talk
like,
about that.
yeah, it's like, no, you're not playing sports. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the biggest fight I had was getting my dad to convince my mom to sign the papers for me to play every year. I mean, that was a big issue.
What was the first year you started playing football?
I started playing at 12.
So at 12 years old,
Seventh grade.
you and dad are having side conversations.
I mean, it's like,
Please.
Pops, bro, it's not going down, man. So yeah, I mean, even going into high school, my freshman year, I was in the marching band.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be going to all the games on Thursday and Friday nights.
Right.
So my sophomore year, I made the varsity team, and I was still going to the games, and I had a great sophomore September, and I was named like sophomore sensation for the month, and so I was in the papers, right?
Right.
So my mom's friends were calling like, Timmy's in the paper. So she's in the like section, like, what did you do? What did you do? I was like, Mom,
It's
you probably should go to the sports section.
Yes.
But the thing at that time, because she was so adamant about me not playing, even seeing that was like a big deal. It was
Right.
like, I don't want you playing sports. I don't want you, I want you to serve God, and it's like, Mom, this is football. It's just sports. I mean,
Right.
but it was a real issue, and not until my junior year in high school, Notre Dame came to recruit another kid named Dante Jones, ended up playing middle linebacker for Oklahoma, then 10 years at middle linebacker for Chicago Bears. So
Yeah.
he was a real deal.
Yes.
He went to my rival high school. That night, I had a kick return, a punt return, a long catch, and a long run. I scored 4 touchdowns. Now, I played 27 years of football. The only time I scored 4 touchdowns when Notre Dame came to recruit somebody else, right? So maybe that's a little God thing happening here. You know what I mean? Something's going on. But so that night, my high school was horrible. We won 4 games in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were 4-25-1 my 3 years on varsity.
That hurts.
But
Hurts,
but we were having fun.
that's
You
all
know
that
what I mean?
mattered at that time, right?
Yeah,
Like, let's
that's
have
all that
fun around
mattered.
there.
And my junior year, after that game, Notre Dame came over because my high school. You hear about Friday Night Lights, and
Yes.
not for Woodrow.
That wouldn't happen
we only
over
play
there.
Thursday nights because we weren't good enough to play on Friday
Right. They're
nights.
like, we're not giving you Friday.
But the great thing about that is it enabled the Notre Dame coach to stay over, and he came to my high school and asked, why is nobody talking about this kid? Is he a bad kid? Is there something wrong with him?
Yeah.
You got bad grades or something? And my coach was like, no, he's like a great kid and great grades. And so Notre Dame was the first college to send me a letter. Then after that, I got like 53
Wow.
offers after that, something like that. And but my whole deal was I wanted to stay in Dallas. I mean, I didn't want to
Right.
go away. I mean, I wanted to be by my family. And it would have happened. I got to tell you this story. And let me just tell the story. You can't make this up, right?
Okay.
So I'm walking home after my junior, after a basketball practice, and my high school principal, like out of nowhere, like whips around the corner and says, "Hey Tim, hey, I wanna, let me take you home." It's like, "Mr. Pierce, I mean, never offered to take me home before."
Right.
So I get in the car. He's like, "Well, we're gonna make a little stop first." So I didn't know that he was a former SMU grad,
Okay.
and he was still at that time running the clocks for SMU football, right? So he takes me over to SMU, right? And and I'm sitting there with all the coaches, and they're telling me about, hey, all the good things they're going to do, this. And I got to say this, there's a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken on the table. Yeah, where, everybody's taking their part. So, yeah. And so
You're imagining how you're in that
This is
moment
crazy.
right now.
it's so crazy. I mean, so there's a knock at the door.
Yes.
It's the coach's secretary. She pulls the coach over and she says something to him as blood like leaves his face, right?
Yeah.
And so he gets the other coaches and he's like, "Hey, hey Tim, hold on 1 second, right?" So they're over there talking, and what
What's going on?
I'm like, "What is going on?" So they came over. They say, "Tim, hey man, we hate to do this, but can we put you in the broom closet?" I was like, "The broom closet?" These guys are like, "So please, whatever you do, don't make a sound. Don't make a sound." So
What?
they put me in the broom closet with the bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, they did it.
So I'm sitting there eating.
Why is the bucket with you?
Because I don't know. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if I asked for it or not. I don't know. But it ended up in the closet with me. And I'm sitting in the broom closet and I hear the coach say, "I would never illegally recruit anybody." And I felt like, yeah, this feels like it's illegal.
Yeah, you're in a closet.
So come to find out, it was the head sports guy for Channel 8 was there, and he was like questioning, like, because at that time they were going through, that was the beginning of all that stuff that was happening. So,
Wow.
so that really changed everything for me, because once I told my big brother, he was like adamant, "We're never talking to SMU again."
Right.
And now I knew I was 16 years old. I don't know any
and
better.
he was like, "Let me."
Yeah,
drive
so
you
I
and-
would have, whatever, they would look. I mean, I would have basketball games, and the head coaches from certain colleges would be there, and they would tell you, "Hey, go talk to Sibley, go talk to Tamar, and you go shake Sibley's hand. That's $1,000. Shake Tamar's hand. That's $1,500. So
Right.
I would leave a basketball game with $5,000 cash in my hand at 16 years old. You know what I mean? What do? You can't even go tell your parents because you don't know what
Right,
they're
'cause you
going to
don't
do.
know what they're gonna
And then
say.
you're afraid somebody's going to beat you
You
up.
don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to open your mouth.
So, yeah, so, I mean, it was a wild time. It was a really
Wow.
wild time, but thankfully, I had parents who, and a big brother who was not going to deal with any of that kind of illegal stuff because, I mean, every school at that time was offering money
Yeah.
and girlfriend go to school with you, mama new
Bribing
house,
you with
daddy new
things, bring
job.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a wild time, but, but we sort of got through that.
Yeah, you survived it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Crazy story. Though,
That's
right?
crazy. I was gonna go back and say, well, what did you play in the marching band? But that's a better story.
Well, I played the bass drum.
Okay.
I'm a percussionist, so
Well, thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Because that's, I mean,
it's
especially
interesting
at
time.
16
Yeah.
years old to be going through something like that.
No, it's a tough deal to deal with, and I can, I've never faulted any kid who went through it because I know that I was a parent away or a big brother away from going through the same thing.
Did that leave a bad taste in your mom's mouth as someone who didn't want you to do sports in the beginning? Seeing that play out, was it even harder than to go? back?
It was. It sort of limited the colleges that we were going to talk to. Right?
Gotcha.
And so I think from that standpoint, it sort of put us on a track. I mean, it was almost Notre Dame a bus.
That was it. Yeah, that was one and done.
Mm-hmm.
Stat for you, because we like those. Second player from Woodrow Wilson High School in Dallas to win the Heisman.
Mm-hmm.
That still stands as right.
Only public high school to have two
Wow.
Heisman winners. Yeah.
Davy O'Brien.
David O'Brien.
Yeah, 1938 winner. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a great stat too. And both inducted into the Woodrow Wilson High School Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
School's 60th anniversary.
Yeah.
That's when that happened.
We have a track football field named after us. So
Wow.
it's pretty. We just had our 40th high school reunion. 40. Yes.
I didn't do any math. I didn't do the math.
Yeah, you did.
40, no. Okay, we'll carry the one. 40th high school reunion. Is it wild for you to? I mean, you are active. We see you at all the games. We see like again golfing. You do everything that you're doing in life. It feels like you never stop moving around. Do you think back and like, wow, that much time has already passed, or where does the time go?
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine that.
Yeah.
I'm 58 years old, and I don't feel like I'm. I don't know what 58 is supposed to feel like. But I'm still pretty active. I do anything I want to do at this particular point.
Yeah, it's young.
And mostly because I feel good. I think if I felt bad, then it'd be
a different story.
Totally different. Yeah.
No, but that's awesome. Notre Dame. I mean, that's massive. That's you. That was always seemed like you're getting to that, and you did.
Yeah.
The experience there for you. Obviously, I talked to a lot of NFL players, and we talked from college into the NFL. But going from high school, what you experienced, and already being such a top athlete from a school that was overlooked because of the records, and then going to such a prestigious school like Notre Dame. What was that experience for you? In
I think initially it was a little overwhelming, to be honest with you. So my the first game that I played, Purdue, down in Indianapolis, we played them. They were opening up a new stadium at the time, and so because of my school and everything, the coaches said, "Hey, Timmy, we're gonna work you in, right? We're gonna work you in." I was like, "Coach Fauci, that's a good idea, bro. It's a good idea, right?" Because I'm going 82,000 people. I ain't never played in front of more than 80 people,
right?
And now we got 82,000 people. So I was like, man. So right before the game, he was like, "Timmy, if we win the opening tip, the toss, I want you to return the kick." And I was like, "Whoa."
What?
So I literally went into shock. I walked out the locker room without my helmet.
You're like, I'm ready.
And the seniors were behind me, and they were seeing how far I was going to go. And they let me get like halfway down. It was like, "You big dumb freshman, get back there and get your helmet." So now, I mean, I don't think I've ever prayed on the sideline before. I mean, it's not my thing, but I'm on the side like, "Hail Mary, Lord Jesus, please let us lose the toss." But we win the toss.
Yes.
Now I have to go back there. And my heart is like not even in my chest, right?
Right.
And so I knew what they were going to do. I knew they were going to, what we called back in the day, squib kick the ball, because, the turf back then was like a half inch of turf and concrete, right?
Yes.
So ball bounced around, whatever. To my credit, I got to the ball. Now, everything I'm going to say from now on is what I saw. It's not what I remembered because I was out. I literally ran into the back of a player, fumbled the ball, didn't know I had fumbled the ball because I'm gone.
Right.
And I take 2 steps without the ball, and the ball is back on the 11-yard line. And that's how I started my college career. So there was a lot of talk on the sideline, like, don't put him back in the game ever, right? But they had a package for me called Dallas package or whatever, and they called it like in the third quarter, and I wouldn't run it in, because in my mind, if I couldn't go home on
Right.
that, and they ended up throwing me the ball, I made a catch, and in my little mind at that time, it settled me down that I can't play this game.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't make a play. You know what I mean? And I think that really changed everything for me. Just how bad things had gone, and all of a sudden, making that catch for a first down,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Right.
I can do this. But the next 2 years, the coaching staff was on the fire. So I played. I returned a couple punts for touchdowns, but I was never featured.
Gotcha.
And so it wasn't until Lou Holtz got there that my life literally changed. Yeah. I mean, after 2 days of practice, we had a month of winter workouts,
Right.
5 a.m. winter workouts, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
early.
So he made everybody, we worked out at 5 a.m. You had to have an 8 a.m. class. So
Yeah.
you went right from workouts to 8 a.m. class. But, you were done by 12, but I mean, that's a long day.
That's a long day.
But after 2 days of practice on the field, he pulled me in and asked me why hadn't I played that much. And I was like, Coach, they just didn't play me. Don't you lie to me, son. You tell me the truth. I said, Coach, was it girls? Was it drugs? Was it your grades? You tell me what it is right now. I'm like, Coach, none of that. They just didn't play. There's no coaching staff in America dumb enough
That
not to play you. And he told me then he thought I could win the Heisman Trophy
Wow.
after 2 days of
After
practice.
2 days of practice.
Yeah, he said you could be the best player in the country, and I was like, hey man, look, I came here to get a degree. I'm gonna go back home, marry my high school sweetheart,
Yeah.
be a deacon in the church.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my
At
thing.
that point
Yeah,
in your
that's-
life,
yeah.
even someone telling you.
Yeah, I was
that.
like, I've never even thought about, and he was like this.
We got to get you right.
It's like-
We gotta get
He was
this.
like, son, he said,
Yeah.
you can have both.
Both can be true.
And I had never, because my mom and dad, when I left to go to college, they was like, hey, look, boy, there's no future in football for you.
Mm.
You go up there and get that education and get on back home. And I was like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. You know what I mean? And so skipping to my senior year, the last game my junior year, we were at SC. I have a huge game. We come back, we're down by 20, come back and win the game. I have a long punt return to set everything up for us to win the game. And after the game, the great late Jim Murray,
Mhm.
reporter, came up to me and said I was going to be his front runner for the Heisman the next year.
Wow.
I can remember, Sibley, and my brother who was right outside, I told him what he had said, and I asked him, hey, even if I don't win the Heisman, you think somebody may want me to come play in the NFL? I mean, because we were just so locked in on that education thing, and we were like, no, that ain't gonna happen.
It just seemed far out of reach.
Yeah, it's
for
just
you.
like
Because it was never instilled as.
no, it was not.
Yeah.
That was not the reason I was going to college.
Right.
I knew I had to play football, and I loved playing football.
Right, because that was a scholarship. Yeah.
I mean, I loved everything about it. I mean, I never cut corners or workouts, and I was fully 100% in, but I just had different goals. I mean, my goal was not to be a football player. My goal was to get that education, come back home, and do something great, and
Could you imagine if you just stopped after?
I know. Yeah, a lot of people. I don't know if I would have met her mom if I.
Right? Thank you for not stopping. Thank you for following dreams, okay? Maybe they weren't your dreams at the time, but you followed your coach's dreams and everyone
Yeah,
else's.
and that's exactly right. And that's sometimes you need people like that in your life, you know what I mean? So
at that point in your life, obviously the position that you play, wide receiver out there, what was so much fun for you being out there on that field and having that?
it was always a challenge, right? Because
Yeah.
you're going up against different guys every week. And some guys are great, some guys are not, right? But sometimes it was harder to get up for the non-great guys than it was, the great guys, you're going to get up for those.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you had to work harder when you knew you had a young guy, you had a guy who was at the end of his career, whatever.
Yeah.
But those are the guys you really had to dig down and really make sure you were ready to go because, if they, did anything on the field, then, when, Tim got shut down by,
Right.
and it was a problem. But, for me, look, I went through a little bit of a, my rookie year was great, made the Pro Bowl, broke a lot of records, all that stuff. Some of that stuff would stand forever because nobody's going to be dumb enough to come into the league, doing all the crazy stuff I was
That
doing,
you were doing.
And my second year I got hurt,
Yeah.
so I'm out 15 games. I missed that entire season. Al Davis makes the declaration that I'm going to be the best third down receiver, punt returner to ever play the game. But I'm not going to ever play on first and second down again. Right?
Yes.
So, how does that work?
Yeah. How does this work out?
But so my third year, we go to AFC Championship game. I never played first and second down. I only played third down and return punts. My fourth season, I ended up making a Pro Bowl again that year as a punt returner, but I never played first and second down. I only played third down.
Stayed in that third. Yeah.
Going into my fifth year, I was in the same role. Mervin Fernandez got hurt, and he got hurt. I had a great game. He was out for 2 more weeks. I had 2 more great games, and I started ever since from 92 to 2003. But that was only because somebody got hurt.
Right. There was an opportunity there for you to.
But so what would my numbers be if I don't know. I mean, I don't think about that part of it because I really think, and we talked about this we talk about this like we're really old men, right? We talk about the same things every time we get together.
Huh? Yeah.
But, I had the opportunity to sit back and learn from some really good football players.
Right.
James obviously in the Hall of Fame. I think Mervin's in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Willie Gault is Willie Gault,
Yeah.
With all his accolades or whatever. And having the opportunity to learn from those guys and see what they were doing and to be in the meetings, not having to go out in the field, but hear what they talked about and how it just made all the difference. So when it came my time, I was so far ahead of the game that, it was hard for a defense to do something that, especially a guy in front of me, and so it was just, the game became pretty easy, just as long as you put the work in during the week.
And you were soaking up all the knowledge from
the
other guys.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the Raiders. But first I need to talk about these nicknames. Touchdown, Timmy. And then when did you, because by the way, say touchdown, Timmy, and then we got to talk Mr. Raider, obviously. I'm going to tell you something. Growing up, my mother, because I was born and raised Raider fan.
Right.
All I heard during the season was, Timmy, come on, Timmy, all day long, all game long. You were her guy, literally. Like
Too
you
funny.
were in our house. Couldn't say nothing. It was Tim Brown. So I know the Timmy part. But where did you get that nickname, Touchdown Timmy? Obviously, knowing what you've done, yes. But who was the first person to call you that? And then going into Mr. Raider, because you are the second person to hold that Mr. Raider name. So we'll talk about that too. But
Yeah. Notre Dame came
Yeah.
up with Touchdown Timmy.
Okay.
So right around the Heisman time, my senior year, they started. There was a couple of announcements during the game. He called me Touchdown Timmy, during the game. So then there was, handkerchiefs and all kinds of stuff that was being sold, and I got none of the money, of course. But
Come on.
But I was surprised that it carried over to the NFL. Though.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by that because my rookie year was a really good year, but I had pretty much 4 average years, and before I was starting again and playing a lot, but it stuck.
Yeah.
It stuck. So pretty interesting.
And then going into, again, putting on the silver and black.
Yeah.
Such a rich, even at that time too,
Yeah.
what the Raiders have built since the jump has been a rich history, and it continues
Yeah.
to go today. When you're representing a team like that, and they give you that name, Mr. Raider, who Jim Otto,
Mm-hmm.
original Mr. Raider, rest in peace. Do you feel like you have to bring even more once you get that name, or at that point it's like, I'm in it? This is, how are those changes for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I was a little shocked when people started to, call me Mr. Raider, because I knew, Jim was the man.
Yeah.
I was at an event with him, and they announced me as Mr. Raider. And I was like, hey, Jim didn't play that.
No.
Jim,
Got to meet the guys.
I mean, he didn't play that. So I was like, hey, Jim, hey, man,
That's
that wasn't
them.
me. I didn't do it. So when I got up, I like, hey, I'm the real Mr. Raider, because I didn't want Jim looking at me crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but look, I think the Raider fans knew one thing. They knew that week in and week out, I was going to give them everything I had. And I don't think there was a game that I walked away from saying, man, I should have worked harder during the week to, and I think the fans saw that. I think the fans, really, understood what was happening. I mean, we didn't have a lot, for a long time. We didn't, I had 20 different quarterbacks while I was with the Raiders. I had, 6, 7 different head coaches, offense coordinators. We were almost changing every other week. It may not be announced in public, but we were changing.
It was happening.
Yeah, so there was a lot of instability, and just made it very difficult to be successful. But even with that, I was finding a way to get to Pro Bowls and do this and do that, and I think the fans just really, really admired that. When we got to Oakland, I started a radio show in Oakland. And in '96, our first full year there, '95, we lived in LA and played in Oakland. We were horrible. We were bad. We were really bad. And it got to the point where the fans were booing us. And I went off on my radio show on the fans.
Yeah.
And I was scared because it's Raider Nation we're talking about.
It's like, wait, what did I just do?
But I could see the next week, because we were getting our butts beat again, people started to boo, and you literally saw people going, no, don't do that. And I was like, man, they're actually listening. I think they're actually, and I think from that time on, I had such an incredible relationship with the fan base that I think that's why I became, in their minds, Mr. Raider, So obviously it's not something that I would ever say.
Right.
But the fans are the fans. Yeah, I played more games in the history of this team than anybody. But because they won championships and that, it is what it is. But Jim always knew where I felt with that, where I stood with that, and I think that's the most important thing.
I love that you say that again. And this show is for the fans, right? At the end of the day, I think that's why Al was like part of it too. He was with the people.
Yeah.
He wanted to talk to the fans. And I see you on Twitter. Like I told you the first time we talked, I was like, you really go in and say how you feel, which I admire. And I think the fan base that we have respects that, because they also understand the importance of the history and what it takes to get on that field in front of not only them, but the other fan bases that are out there. So I'm sure that respect obviously is going to be there forever. What is the mindset that you have to have in this game and when you were a Raider in order to go out there and not allow the negativity to affect you?
Yeah, I pretty much took the attitude that, there were a lot of things I could control, but there were a lot of things I couldn't control.
Right.
And control the controllable, you know what I mean? And everything else, you hope it work out, I mean, I couldn't pick my quarterback, you know what I mean? So what do I do? Well, I find out what this guy likes to do. That's what I do. And whatever he likes to do, I mean, I made a decision early in my career. I mean, I came out of college, I was a 4.33 guy, 4.35 guy. So I run, But, we always had faster guys. But the one thing I realized, even though a quarterback may have been inexperienced or not as good, whatever you want to say, they could all throw the ball 5, 10, 15 yards down the middle of the field.
Minimum, at least, right? Get it down there.
I mean, if you couldn't do that, you're not in the NFL.
Why are you? Yeah.
And so I made a decision, and then I would watch Willie Gault, James Jett run these 40-yard routes. If they didn't catch the ball, guess what they did? They walked off the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I want to be on the
I
field.
want to stay on.
So I can run 5, 10, 15 yards and jog back to the huddle all day. You know, I mean, that's why I don't know what the percentage of plays I played, but it had to have been extremely high because I never came out the game. You know, I mean, I never came out because I was tired, anything of that nature, because there was always a play you could get your rest on. You know what I mean? There was always a way to get your rest, you know, in the middle of a game, you know.
But when it was time to work,
yeah,
it was time to work.
Yeah. So I just think from that standpoint, you know, working with these younger quarterbacks, older. I mean, I played with Vince Evans back in the day.
Right. So
Hey,
you've
Tim.
seen-
Hey, Timmy. Hey, man. I need you over the middle of the field, man. All right, Vince.
So you've seen the
Vince-
extremes of it.
Man, Vince and I had some moments together. I mean, the first time I went over 1,000 yards, he was my quarterback.
Really?
Up in Green Bay, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
and he got chastised for it, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, you know. So I think, you know, I never tried to control the defense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never tried to get in business that I couldn't control.
Yeah.
But you know, my receivers, the running backs, you know, those guys, you know, I mean, if I can get in their ear about something, I did. But at the same time, it wasn't like I was looking for something every day or whatever. Things would come up and you talk about it, you know, because I knew one thing, I had to play well every week for us to have a chance to be in the football game. If I play bad, if I'm dropping balls,
That's
you know,
it.
these boys are going to freak out because
Right.
that doesn't happen, right? And I'm not trying to say I was perfect, but I had to play at a higher level because if I didn't, the guys behind me were young or whatever, inexperienced or whatever, and if they saw me floundering, then God knows what was going to happen. You know?
Right. So you had to have that leadership.
Yeah.
And make sure each
Yeah.
time you stepped on the field, it
Yeah.
was as close to perfect as you could
I mean,
get. Yeah. I normally would ask, what does it mean to be a Raider and put on the silver and black? But for you, knowing what you did in your career,
Mhm.
knowing what the organization means to you, how special is it to be a Raider?
Yeah.
Not just, you know, going out there, but to actually be a Raider. I think a lot of people, because I have, like I said, I'm honored to be able to sit next to you. And it gets me emotional because I've watched so many games as a kid,
Mhm.
hear my dad talk about all the guys, like, man,
Right,
all the
right,
programs and
right.
everything. It's such a rich history. I don't think people realize just how special this organization
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that, you know, the organization is so tight because it's gone through a lot. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the history of the team. I mean, yeah, they won 3 championships in a matter of 6, 7 years or whatever it was, maybe a little bit more than that, but hadn't been able to get back since to win anyway. We got there in 2003, but obviously didn't win it. When it's so funny to line up against somebody and you're battling with them, and at some point they say, "Hey man, tell Al I'm a free agent at the end of the year." You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times that happened.
Wow.
You know, I mean, you go to Pro Bowls, you go whatever, a bunch of players, they always ask about the Raiders. I didn't ask about the Broncos.
Right.
I mean, I grew up a Cowboy fan. I didn't ask, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people were always, you know, enamored by the Raiders, by the silver and black. And, you know, I think for the players, you know, I mean, you look at what the Raiders do now with the alumni deal, you know, with the health thing they're doing now.
They take care of, yeah.
There's not another team in the league that's doing anything like that.
No, and not at the volume that
No,
they're doing it at.
I
You
mean,
guys show up, so you
it's-
guys are there.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. But that was Al's whole deal, you know, that he would always take care. I mean, I don't know how many guys he had on the payroll, but you know, it didn't matter. He was going. They were his guys. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, they won championships for him. So whatever he had to do, he was going to take care of. And I just think that is so special. And you know, it's not like they're handing out checks around here or anything of that
Mhm.
nature, but just the ability to be able to get back. You know, because what we all miss is a locker room.
Right.
Yeah, we don't miss that helmet in the back. Nobody misses a helmet in the back.
No.
You know, you don't miss that. You know, but you know, you miss the locker room, and to give these guys or give us 3 or 4 days of being back in the locker room,
Yes.
it's an amazing thing. You know?
It means more than most people would understand. and
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, it's hard to really put into words how special it is.
Yeah.
You know, because I used to say all the time, you know, world peace could be solved in the locker room, or the
Or
World
it
War
could be
III
worse.
could be
We're
it could
all
be
in.
started. You know, because it's you know, when you get grown men of black and white, whatever, Hispanic, and getting to talk about and to get on the same page,
Yeah.
you know, how much you have to give to get there in order to, it's really an amazing thing, you know, and that's why it takes very special teams to be able to get all the way in and win it,
Oh
because
yeah.
if you're not locked in together, it's going to be impossible to get done.
Yeah. Teams all together. You got to
Yeah,
do all.
yeah.
Got to pull your weight. So we have a fun question for you from
Oh.
the fans, but I'm
Fun.
just keep that in mind, okay? But the other thing I wanted to ask you is, do you remember the moment you first suited up, and do you remember that moment when you knew 2005 retiring as a Raider? Do you have specifics that you can just paint those pictures in your mind?
Yeah, you know, I never will forget, you know, my first time suiting up for the Raiders. You know, I mean, I fumbled the opening kickoff my freshman year. My first touch in the pros, I returned the kick 97 yards for a touchdown. So, and I think that jersey is like in the Hall of Fame because I broke Gail Sayers' all-purpose yardage, whatever that season. But no, I never will forget that, obviously. But I mean, the last time I suited up, period, I was with Tampa. But you know, my last game and with the Raiders, you know, I didn't have no clue it was my last game. You know,
Yeah, you didn't.
because I thought I was going to retire in a year,
Mm-hmm.
but and I think I made a mistake. I think I mentioned to Al, we were talking at a mini camp in '04, and he asked me what my plans were, and I told him, I said, look, you know, I think I got a couple more years in me, you know, but you know, it may be time to, you know, let JP, Jerry Porter, you know, let him, you know, and I'll get him. You know, I was trying to like be funny about it, like I'll get him ready.
Yeah.
And Al was like, "Oh yeah, well we're gonna get you out of here before all that happens. You're not waving no towel on me, brother. You're not gonna be." So I was, you know, probably a little bit too upfront with Al about my plans,
Right.
but yeah, it was pretty interesting, you know, being that I was able to come back here, go back to Oakland
After,
and play against the Raiders and caught my 100th touchdown pass versus the Raiders. It was, to me, that was magical
That
stuff.
was
I mean,
that's the
was-
universe.
Yeah,
with it.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I you know, I think that you know, there were a lot of things, you know, I knew when Tampa went to play Arizona, I knew that was going to be my last game. Emmitt Smith was playing for Arizona, and we had talked before the game, and he had asked me, Brown, what are you going to do? And I said, Emmitt, just because you can, don't mean you should, right? And so after the game, he came up to me, he said, Brown, just because you can, don't mean you should. And he walked off the field, and he ended up retiring that year too, you know? So,
Wow.
so yeah, you know, I think that, you know, I walked off the field that day knowing that it was the last, but I didn't have that emotional.
No. Because this was something that you were already thinking about.
Yeah,
and
you know,
you had accomplished so
'cause
much already.
I knew I couldn't play the way they wanted me to play at 39 years old.
Right.
I couldn't play
You're
that.
like, why would I put myself?
Yeah, I mean, because you know, we talked about me playing so many snaps. So I get to Tampa, and now I'm playing 5-7 snaps a game.
Right, which is
And my 38, 39-year-old body is on the sideline like, bro, we need to
Time
warm
go
up.
home. Look.
So I'm sitting there. I remember one game, it's a night game or whatever, and I didn't play the first half. I didn't play the third quarter. So I'm thinking, well, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I get my little beanie hat or whatever, and the young kid I'm playing behind gets hurt.
Oh no! So like, get in.
And they was like, Timmy. I was like, Timmy who?
You look behind him.
I was like, Timmy who? I said, yo, I said, oh,
You're not
my.
talking to me.
And Gruden was like, get in there, man. I need you. And then he go throw me the ball. Oh, my God. I was going up against a kid from Carolina, and he was like, oh, gee, it's time. I said, bro, I know. I said, I'm just trying to get through the game. Just help me out, all right? Just help me out. So it was horrible because I was so used to being out there all the time. All of a sudden now,
You're like, this is
I
different.
was like, I can't play this game. I can't. So I knew it was over.
So the heart racing at that moment and that very first time at Notre Dame, heart race.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's
oh, man.
totally different, but it's the same. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wow.
It was pretty interesting. You know, and but very few guys get a chance to walk away from this game by saying, hey, today I retire from the NFL.
On their own terms.
Yeah. So I was very, very, very happy about, that I had to, I had a couple other offers, to keep playing. And, but, they were, she has a twin brother.
Mhm.
So they were a year old at the time or whatever
Yeah.
it was. And I just didn't want to be dragging them all over the country. I didn't want to, they have a sister who is, 4 or 5 years older than them. And, she was already at school in Tampa, bring it to Dallas.
It
And
was a lot.
now we're going to go to Philly or go to New England. And I just said, no, I'm not going to do it. But when I had a chance to come back to the Raiders and, retire as a Raider, that was quite the moment for me.
Special moment.
Yeah.
When you hear commitment to excellence.
To me, that means work. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You can't be excellent if you don't work.
Yeah.
I used to put work on one foot and hard on my practice shoes. So every time I look down, I saw work hard because I'll take a less talented guy who's a hard worker.
Yep.
Over a talented guy who's lazy any day of the week. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you can have talent, but you don't get to the NFL unless you have talent.
Yeah, of course.
But a lot of guys find different ways to not use their talents. I can remember I was at a Raider event and there were guys sitting at the table, a lot of guys were younger than me, who I hadn't played with. And they just started going around the table talking about how they left the game and how they wish they would have done things differently, And they got to me. I was like, hey, fellas, I'd tell you, I did all I could do.
That I wanted to do.
And I walked away the way I wanted to walk away
Yeah.
because I never wanted to be that guy sitting there going, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Right. You don't want the
what I mean?
regrets.
And but if you don't work hard, there's no way you could be excellent.
Yeah. Perfect transition.
Hmm.
Because you said earlier in this interview that you enjoy hearing these accolades that you've received in your career. Throwing out the names again, the titles of these Heismans, Breaking Records, Hall of Fame, all-time team, Pro Bowls, everything that you've received. Was there ever any expectations that you had versus the reality of those when you received them? And was anything kind of surprising to you when you received them? Or were you looking to get those accolades when you went out there? Or is it just, let me get down to business?
No, a lot of stuff, I didn't know about until, the day before the game. When I was about to break Freddie's record, I didn't know about that until, the day before the game,
Right.
And it was the last game of the year. And I knew that, I needed 7 or 8 catches to break Freddie's record. And I ended up catching like 14 balls that game. It's not something that, at the beginning of the year, it's like, oh, I need 95 catches to go.
You mean you didn't have a diary of it?
I
You weren't
didn't.
writing it down?
I
Keeping
never-
track?
And I don't know if I regret not, because some of that stuff is pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but I think when they were telling me that It goes back and forth. Who's played more games, Tim or Jimmy?
Right.
Tim played 254. How many auto play? He played this. Well, are you going to count these games he played? So I don't know what it is,
Tit
but I
for
know
tat is
I
like,
played
yeah.
255 games for this organization, and nobody will ever do that again.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, knowing that nobody would ever play as many games for
Right.
this organization that I did, it's something that, you know me, I'm not ever going, hey, yeah, that's me. I'm that guy, right?
Remember when I did
But
that? Yeah.
but it's it shows how dedicated and hardworking, how much hard work I put into being on the field. I went 15 years, and I missed one game, and I could have played that game, but they wouldn't let me play. But
Wow.
look, I played a game, scored a 65-yard touchdown with a bicycle inner tube taped to my butt.
What?
It replaced my hamstring. They taped it here, taped it there around my butt, so it became my hamstring.
Acted as your
Yes, and I scored on a 65-yard touchdown. I was done after that, but you know what I mean. And the next week
But you did that.
But I did it.
Who can say they did that?
I didn't, and not because I wanted to, some accolades for it, but it just showed how much you cared and how much, you really wanted to help the team.
Yeah.
And you would do anything you could possibly do to help the team, But so I can bet that there's nobody in the history of the league to ever score a touchdown with a bicycle in a tube taped to their butt, Sibley. Come on.
That's another accolade. Add that to the list. Would that be a memorable play of yours? Or like
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
insane.
I mean, it was back in LA, 92. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Never forget it.
What do you miss the most? Or do you
It's
miss
it's
anything
really
specific?
it's like we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
It's all about the locker room.
That's
It's really all about.
Yeah.
I mean, the moments that we have. practice is, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. But we would be in the locker room for another 2 hours talking and whatever. And in the mornings you come early, and in the evenings you stay late.
Yeah.
And just having these conversations with guys, man, and getting to know people, and I mean, Marcus Allen, I mean, we're like, it's like my big brother now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're so close, man, because he literally took me under his wings when I got here. And me and him and OJ hanging out.
Yeah,
Who
just
fit-
like-
it was the way it was.
It's like back
3
in the
Heisman
day.
Trophy was walking in the room, people
Wow.
like freaking out a little bit.
Right,
You know
like
what I mean?
what's happening here?
It was crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
but I just think, to have that relationship now, think about the guys who were only in the room for a little bit of time, but when you see them, you still have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Mervin Fernandez, was my roommate on the road, you know what I mean? And I mean, these relationships, man, are just so deep. That,
And a lot continue, like you said,
Yeah.
through today.
Yeah. So, I just think that part of it, being able to have the relationships, you see Howie Long, man, and he comes up, gives you a hug, like you just saw him, yesterday, like he, offering, hey, Timmy, anytime you want to come to my place up in Wyoming, just let me know, man.
Love
You know what I
that.
mean? It's so, those type things that, people will never hear about, but any NFL player that you talk to, if they don't tell you that the one thing they miss is the locker room, you can know that he was not a good teammate.
Right.
You can know that person was not a good teammate, because if you don't miss the locker room, you miss the NFL.
Right.
You really miss the NFL.
Special place.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
You mentioned obviously being drafted, and we just celebrated Al Davis recently. Him knowing so much, not even being an athlete himself, but behind the scenes commissioner, like all these roles
Yeah.
he took on, knowing what every guy that he brought on to the team did in college, eyed them. What was that draft experience like for you? And then that relationship early on with him, and how was that?
So this is where I take a fit.
Okay, go ahead. You can
No,
you can take a fit.
Let me
but the
just say this.
drafting,
Let
his
me-
mind, and
Let me just say this. Al didn't like Notre Dame players.
Okay.
All right. And now this is what I was told.
Yes.
It's not something that I know. It's what I was told. So when I got drafted, and I got drafted on Saturday, Monday, I was on the practice field. You know what I mean?
That fast.
That fast. And the GM at the time pulled me over and said, "Hey man, the old man didn't want you. You know, old man wanted to take another kid. You know, they wanted Ricky Dixon,
Okay.
who ended up playing for us. You know, passed away a couple of years ago too. But they wanted him. He went to pick before me, and they were mad. He was mad that they didn't move up or whatever to get Ricky.
To get him.
Yeah. So he was. They say he walked out the draft room. Like, yeah. When he fails,
He was that mad.
yeah. When he fails, it's on you. You know. And so I came here knowing that I was not Al's pick,
Right.
but you know everybody else wanted me. So yeah. So the relationship initially was a little different. It was a
Yeah.
little different because it wasn't like, hey, glad to have you, Timmy. Glad
Right.
to, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
I don't think I had, I think he may have said hello to me one time, but
Right. But that
was it. Yeah, there was
the
no,
extent of things.
there was no, okay, come to my office, talk, nothing like that. Then I get hurt my second year.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back my third year, I remember that he in training camp, Timma, he called me Timma.
What did he call you?
Timma.
Timma.
Timma. Timma, can you still make those moves like you used to? Can you still make those moves? But so yeah, we had some pretty interesting times.
Yeah.
Because with what was going on with Marcus sort of came through me once Marcus left, and that's why I left. I signed a deal with the Broncos.
Right.
Do you know that?
I didn't know that.
In
So,
93,
Okay, 93.
I signed a deal with the Broncos because I wanted out.
Because you don't want to be around that. That's
I wanted to play football. I wanted to have
That's it.
fun.
You're like, I don't need
I
all
don't want
this-
to be the politics. I don't want
Yeah.
to be, I didn't ask you guys to draft me. You guys drafted me.
Right.
So I'm playing the best football I can play for you. I'm doing whatever. Made a couple pro balls in 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
Coming back from a major knee injury. But even with that, it just didn't seem like it was enough.
right.
And I remember we were playing the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football, and Al Michaels, before the game, came up to me and said, "Hey, I hear you're getting traded tomorrow." I said, "Well, Al, I guess I better have a good game tonight, Dad." And I had a great game that night,
Yeah.
but didn't get traded. But yeah, I signed a contract with the Broncos, and the Raiders had a week to match it, and they did, and we were shocked. I mean, me and John Elway, we had picked out my neighborhood.
Really?
He had picked out the dealership he was going to give me. I mean, it was like I was on my way to Denver,
Wow.
and literally the 11th hour on Thursday night at midnight, the deal is done. They called my agent and matched the contract. So what I decided to do, I had 21 things outlined on a legal pad, and I told him we're going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
We had a 6-hour conversation about and I walked out of there understanding him. Maybe not agreeing with him on everything,
Yeah.
but at least I understood. I knew one thing: he was a football guy.
Yeah.
He knew the game.
He knew
My
it.
rookie year, I ended up in the Super Bowl with him in the same suite, and the last drive that the 49ers had to win the game, he was like, "Timma, let's see if you know football. What are they going to do right now? Slant to Jerry Rice. No, everybody knows that. They're going to throw it in a flat to Rathman. Dude." And he literally called
it.
I mean, it was crazy. He was calling plays the whole drive. So, it wasn't about the football, but it was like the personal stuff. And I'm not looking for you to be my daddy or my uncle
Right.
or, anybody of that nature. But at the same time, we should have some kind of relationship if I'm working for you.
If I'm working for you.
Yeah, but it just, after that, things were as good as they could be. And,
Yeah. In that 6 hours in that
Yeah.
office with him going back and forth, now is it just the two of you or is your
yeah,
agent?
no.
So when you
No.
have those moments again, those are things that not many people can say.
Yeah.
They had those moments. Is there one last thing before we wrap up that you want to say? Anything to Raider Nation?
Well, Raider Nation, look, y'all know I love you. I love you. I appreciate you. Always will. Always have. And I just, I say this a lot when I get cameos and all that stuff. A lot of what I did for you, because I understood that you were going to be there. You were going to be there supporting us, and I felt like I had to perform because I was scared of you guys, so that was part of it. But I realized that if you guys can come and do what you did, then at least I can do is give an effort, and hopefully you guys are proud of the effort I gave. So,
Mr. Tim Brown. Touchdown, Timmy, Mr. Raider, in the building with us here on Raiders Talk of the Nation. You already know we're wrapping up this episode. We got another one coming for you next week. It has been my honor. I'm going to continue to say that every time we sit together.
Hey, I tell you, when they told me Sibley, I was like, Sibley wants to talk to me?
That's right, she does.
Oh my God, I'm moving up.
Yes, it's a win-win for both.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Absolutely.
Bye, guys.